He te māreikura, nau mai hoki mai ki tēnei kaupapa, ko roa te wā, engari e tino māhana tēnei tēpu, ki te noho, ki tō taha, I tēnei wā. So, welcome back to the show, sis.
Oh, tēnā koe ihoa. Yeah, he roa te wā. So happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Man, it's been a couple of years since we first had our kōrero when I first started planting seeds. I think you were episode number 6 or 7. You were very early on in the journey, and now this kaupapa has gone to around 130 episodes.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so we've been putting in the mahi, been putting in the reps, and to now have you back into this kaupapa to share, you know, ngā huakua puta mai since that last chat that we've had, because I know you're passionate about Pākihi. You're very much so a creative person. You're very structured and analytical in the certain moves that you do make, but in terms of the services that you provide and the manaaki that you have for te hunga tangata, it's absolutely beautiful to bring you back into this space to share some of that kōrero.
Ka whai, yeah, I'm keen.
And so what's been happening for you? You know, give people a bit of a recap, perhaps maybe another introduction, because there might be some new listeners since that last chat that we did have.
Yeah, ka pai, o tēnā koutou. He mokopuna hau no te tairāwhiti, ko Ngāti Porou te whakatōhia me te aitanga maha ki ngā iwi. I tipu ake au ki Tūranganui Ākiwa, hoi kei kirikiriro tōku kāinga I nainei. Nō reira, kia ora, Nikki, aka Niksta, born and raised in Gizzy on the coast, and I've been living in Hamilton for the last 7 years. Moved there for university studies, and I currently still live there. So a recap from where I was 2 years ago. I was just finishing my masters, and I was running Taputapu, and I was tutoring, teaching at the same time, so my capacity at the time was pretty full on at that time. And from there, I finished my masters, COVID hit, lockdown happened in 2020, and yeah, my business just, we had to pivot in many ways due to COVID. We were importing a lot of product in, and it was unreliable to kind of trust when our shipments would come in. We had about 2 or 3 delays on some of our product drops, and it just cost us so much money in the end. And I just thought, let's stop doing products. And I thought, actually, at the end of the day, I'm a graphic designer by trade. I've got my tohu. Let's start offering graphic design services, because in the past I would always get hit up, Nix, can you design our logo? Can you do this publication for us? And I could do it, but I didn't have any, I guess, processes then. So I thought, actually, let's give this a go. And I was teaching at the same time, so it allowed me to get our services started. I brought a graphic designer on because I knew that I wouldn't be able to run the graphic design services on my own. I needed to have some support, so I brought Taylor on. And it's scary, to bring other people on. I just knew that I have to work harder to make sure that she's getting paid. I'm all good, but yeah. Anyway, it gets to last year, July, and our graphic design services was rampant. The business was doing really well, too well, and I had to give up teaching. It just came to a point where I was like, actually, do I really want to invest more into my business? You know, am I actually serious about this? I mean, all good. If you still want it to be a side hustle, cool. But how about give it a good go? Give it a good shot, put your all into it, and let's finish teaching at uni. And yeah, last year took the leap. And then from there till now, pretty much just investing more into our graphic design services. I've stepped right back from our products, and I have been learning pottery.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, to try and sell my own products, because that to me feels like I understand where the product has been made, how it's been made, and I've made it myself. It just felt more better for me, sustainable. It's just a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
So at the moment, it's just a hobby. So those are a few things that I've been doing the last couple of years during COVID and our lockdowns, and have had to pivot our business pretty dramatically. Yeah.
But it seems as though the pivot has been one of those things that has paid off. You know, sometimes we go through these challenges, these external circumstances that we cannot control. But it's how we respond in those moments that either allow businesses to make those pivots to either sustain or to grow, or we sort of just suffer in what is happening and just admit defeat. And to hear your kōrero come out and understanding your own circumstance, and then being able to go through these challenges, but then look at, oh, well, what else? Being resourceful, you know, and knowing that you've got this gift, you've got this tohu, you've got all these other things to make those necessary pivots. And not only was it in a great direction, but it's removing yourself from a physical product, even though it's great. And, you know, in order for that to grow, you've got to sell many of those products. And you're not guaranteed those kinds of things. There's a lot of risk in that kind of space as well. But going down the service space, there's not only more opportunity, but there's more things there in terms of energy exchange. Yep. And so have you noticed that in your recent transition?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And I think in business we have to adapt quickly and quickly admit our failures. The quicker we admit it, like just drop all ego and actually just say, yeah, actually I made a wrong move bringing in that product, you know, and what am I going to do now? So you have to quickly adapt, quickly pivot. I felt like with the products, I was slogging a dead horse. Like, as much as I love to bring te reo Māori homeware into homes, like what you said, there was so much risk and expenses in that. My product, unfortunately, wasn't small. So it's not like a T-shirt you can wrap up. We're talking about like 4 tins or 4 jars in one set. And so getting 300 to 500 units in, we're talking pallets of products, and they weigh so much. Like, I can't just air freight them over. They have to be shipped, which takes months. And then to store them, my poor flatties at the time, like, had to live around my boxes in our lounge, you know, like, and the moment for me when I realized, wow, products isn't doing me any good here, was I sat down with my accountant. And whanau, if you're in a business, get an accountant. They're one of your po in your business. And sitting down with her, we did a 3-year draft, budget, plan, vision, etc. And she said, okay, your expenses for your product is storage, packaging, courier, insurance, blah, blah, blah. We mapped it all out. This is how much it costs. This is how much profit you're bringing in. And I was like, that's so much work and so much expenses, right?
For the profit.
It hurt, yeah. And then she said, all right, but let's look at the opportunity with your graphic design services. What are your expenses for this? And I was like, my Adobe subscription, power, Wi-Fi, and that was it. And I was like, damn. And to think about the profit gain in our services, I just thought it's no brainer.
Wow. Let's
just drop the product and let's focus on services. So, yeah, when you really can just admit failure and think about, all right, what's the solution? Quickly pivot. I think it's important in business. We have to quickly adapt.
Man, I think that's an important part of it in terms of the ego, because our ego is attached to something.
Oh, absolutely.
And our ego wants things to work, or we make ourselves believe that it's working, which keeps us holding on to it longer than we need to. And I understand that because of the food trailer. You know, a lot of my identity was around being the plant-based Māori and, you know, going from in the markets and then that progression from a market into a food trailer, and then the amount of responsibility because of the putia that came in to get that going. It was like wanting to move through that space, but then similar to you, the expenses and getting all the food, knowing that those are perishable, you know, those things can't last and store. So we're not guaranteed to make the amount of money or to sell it. And if we do sell it, we can only make this much, we can only sell so much tacos. And so I started to notice the exchange of time and energy for a potential profit, you know. And then I started to look at all the other mahi, like podcasting, going into the online course space. There was a service there that I could provide that if I put the same time and energy into this space, not only does it mean that I don't have to sell X amount of tacos, because that's also based on where I am and what I do, but going into this online world, wow, te nui ngā ki o ngā tangata. So that was for me as well. I got to a point where I was walking around the supermarket. I rang up Hine Pānia and I was like, I do not want to do this anymore. You know, and that weekend was our last weekend.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we made that pivot as well. And it's not just, it's surrendering to the ego and overcoming it by being okay with detaching and
Letting
letting
go.
and just moving. It doesn't change anything of who you are. It
No.
just means that you're outgrowing and you're learning
Yeah.
towards something that best aligns for you and your whānau.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes we get fixated on, but what will others think?
Exactly.
You know, my kaupapa has been this trailer for years.
Yep.
People have followed my vision. Now I'm going to give it up. What will people think? But honestly, I'm like, just stay in your lane and do what's best for you. Don't think about what others will think. Because at the end of the day, you're on the line, your business is on the line. And yeah, I'm just like, stay in your lane.
Yeah, but how cool was it when we were at markets together, eh?
Yeah.
You know, even just knowing that we've put those reps in, knowing that we know what it's like to
Yeah.
start at a certain stage and to grow something to,
Yeah.
you know, a really decent sort of like level, but understanding, man, there's seasons and there's times and we're growing throughout that
Yeah.
whole process and we're in a much better position in terms of understanding where we are going and what we're doing is contributing to that whakaaro.
Yeah, and I think being open to some tohu that come your way to allow you to pivot. And I think too, like, really proud of us for actually giving it a go. You know, at the end of the day, we can say, yeah, man, we tried the trailer. Yep, we tried Te Reo Māori homeware. Awesome. And now other whānau are coming in and doing either the same thing or, you know, doing their own businesses, and that's cool. So now it's just like, all right, that's been a season, let's move on. And it's not to say that season might come back around.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, with my pottery stuff, it might take another year and I'll be selling product again. That door is always still open. But yeah, it's time to grow in other areas.
Yeah, I love that. And let's talk about pottery. Like, I saw the sis doing her pottery on her wheel, man. She's going hard. She's setting up this mean workspace. And I started to see these things coming out. And I just got this mad love for pottery. And I think it's from my mama because she's always got these different mugs. And she's like a handi hoko shopper. And she'll get all these different mugs. And it's an experience drinking a hot drink out of a good mug. You know, there's an experience there. And I saw you doing it. And And what I saw, Niksta, was your mahi, the effort you were putting in, and then the progression of the mahi that you were doing. And for them to get glazed, I was like, whoa, it just took it to a whole new level. And I was like, sis, please, can I just buy some of these things like off the bat? And when they arrived, I was just so overwhelmed with how great they were. So let's talk about the pottery space as well.
Yeah, that's huge. I feel like it's a never-ending rabbit hole because there's so many options in pottery, right? There's different clays, there's different glazes, there's different shapes, there's different styles. So I felt like even now going into it, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this the right move? Because there's so many options to go for. And I just signed up to a pottery class at the Waikato Society of Potters in Hamilton. Just thought, man, let's give it a go. It was a cool creative outlet for me to actually come off the computer and do something with my hands. So I felt that was quite refreshing for me as a creative. And then I thought, yeah, I'm feeling this, and realized that people were into pottery. I didn't know it was a thing, and started to follow other potters and thought, man, this stuff is so beautiful and it's handmade. You can't beat this.
Unique.
You know, like you can go to Kmart and get a $5 mug, but there's no story behind that. It's just been manufactured with a million other mugs, right? And I saw the potential in pottery to be like, man, how cool is it to actually make my own products. So going through the whole journey, it took like maybe a month, and I was trolling Marketplace for a wheel, and they're hard to come by. But one day there was this pottery wheel on Marketplace, and I was like, oh damn, I'm in there. And I was messaging this old karawa, and I was like, matua, can I please buy it? It's Pākehā whala. Whatever you want, I'll come and pick it up now. And he was like, cool, here's my deposit, bank details, sweet. Made the deposit, picked it up the next day, and he goes, wow, heaps of people are really keen on. I was like, I know, that's why I wanted to secure it. And it was just a tohu for me to be like, oh my gosh, I actually scored a pottery wheel.
And just your excitement in it too, where
Yeah.
you're like...
Yeah, and it was like, not only is it just a pottery wheel, it's a kauri wheel. We use the same wheels at our pottery studio, but it was made in Hamilton. It's New Zealand made, like it's
Wow,
old
the
school
whakapapa
retro.
of it, eh?
Yeah, the whakapapa of it. I was like, oh, meant to be. And before that, I had renovated my workshop, and it was perfect to go straight in front of my window. You know, like
Was
it
that
all
that
fell
wood one?
Yes. When I did the architrave on my window, it just went straight in front of it. And I named my wheel Kurawaka. And I was like, yeah, it was just fitting. Yeah, it was fitting. So since last year, around about May, it's been about a year now, I've been learning pottery, just going hard in my workshop, and it's just a bit crazy.
Yeah, I could just sort of sense like the feeling that I get is just a child going into a lolly store.
Right.
And you're just like, whoa, all these options. And
It's
you're
overwhelming,
just,
right?
Yeah. Because I've got that feeling, like I just really enjoy the uniqueness of it, the feel of it, just, the effort that goes into those kinds of pieces and things that you're doing. And it's just great that it still relates to your mahi. Like there's Taputapu, the products that you're getting in, but that Māori is now transitioned into something that you're creating. And I just absolutely love that whole full circle moment that you're in at the moment, Niksta.
And how cool to make products out of uku, out of whenua. Like that's the level I want to get to. If I could actually get my own clay, make it myself, but that's like another level. And I'm at the stage where, I can make some vessels now. I can make a bowl. I can make a tumbler, but I'm trying to find what is my niche.
Yeah.
There's so many potters out there that are known for their different styles or the different clay that they use. So I'm understanding, if you see a mug, that's made by...
so-and-so.
Yeah. And so what is my niche? So I'm just trying to find that at the moment.
Wow. And I'm sure in time and more experience that'll start to come through. And do you feel, in terms of your mahi with, I like how this is like a creative outlet for you, because doing graphic design, you're just consumed with, the technology and, being on a screen and things of that nature. And so what are the things that you're learning within going full on in your graphic space, Niksta? What's one of the main things that you're enjoying most about that space?
Man, what I love is designing content is pretty cool. And we're working with and on some awesome kaupapa Māori. So that's been a buzz to actually work on creating content for, kiingitanga stories, or working with Pākehī Māori to create their branding. I think recently, though, the buzz is these Pākehī Māori that don't have a big budget, and we can create for them their logo that gives them so much pride. That buzzes me out. When the client's just like emotional about the concept that we've done for them, they're like, wow, this is like bang on. You're just like, oh, we nailed it, and then being able to do a tohu for a whanau on the East Coast, and then they come back to you and they're like, we love it. I'm like, great. You just know that just that one, it's not a little tohu, it's their marker, right? It's their identity of what they do every day, day in, day out. So for them to have this tohu that represents them and their business, man, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be part of, that they can feel proud of the mahi that they do, because we've got this nice tohu now.
Wow, that's amazing. And not the thing that comes to mind too, Niksta, is that you're providing that in your mahi there, but man, it's just your whakaaro. I remember when, I created, Tupuanuku when it first came out, and I had a vegan guide or something. And then you came through the idea of man, what about Tupuanuku? Because this was the time when there was the renaissance of matariki was coming out, and boom, it was a perfect fit. Hearing you name your clay wheel Kurawaka, you've just got this real knack of seeing what would best fit in this particular space. You got a great eye, or you've got this great intuitive feeling to fill in a gap for whatever the person needs. And is that just an instinct that you sort of trust?
Yeah, absolutely. I can identify it when it drops. I'm just like, oh, duh, like Kurawaka, of course. And even with my sub brands now, there's Taputapu Toa for our products, and then Taputapu Toi for our graphic design stuff. And yes, I think sometimes giving clarity to businesses to be like, oh, well, let's cut that out and let's just focus on this. I think there is this intuitive clarity, I suppose. I love working in simplistic environments, where everything's just so simple. It's even in my nature. I'm just very, yes or no sometimes.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
But it's cool to have that kind of clarity, you know, and having that space of decluttering. Because how much of us are hoarders?
Right.
You know what I mean? Hoarders of ideas, hoarders of thoughts. You know, we try and, like how you said, we try and compact all of our thoughts into one thing.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes less is more. He tika te kōrero,
Yeah.
I te kupu nui te kōrero,
Yeah.
you know, and I feel your approach to certain things by simplifying things actually creates more.
And I think that's something that I love as part of what I do. I offer like help me sessions as well for people that have started their business. They've got all these ideas, but they don't know how to name their business.
Wow.
And so I've done a couple of sessions now, and we've been able to brainstorm keywords, you know, really talk about what they're into and what their values are. And then we'll just come down, sift it all out, and we come to that one name, or we might come up with 3 names, and I'll just say to them, cool, now go away, have a feel for it, sit with it, sleep with it, and then come back to us if you've got a name.
That is a mean service, because
Ooh.
how often do we have ideas and then we think of trying to think of a name that represents it? It's like such a hard part, and it's almost
So
crippling.
key.
And it's real crippling for
It can
people,
be.
you know, because it's prolongs the process of being like, man, I've got this great idea, but what's it going to be called? And then we get caught in the trap of like, oh, well, this is a cool thing. And we get caught on what other people are doing and what they named.
Or what it should be
And
named.
exactly. So far, that's awesome that you've got that service. So what's that called? Help me
session.
Man.
Yeah. I even just thought of like how I named Taputapu. It was the day before I had the idea of designing te reo Māori homeware, and I was like, oh man, that's amazing. And then the next day I went out for a run and I was thinking about the idea, do I want to make this a business? What would I name it? And it was the first word that came to mind. I was like, Taputapu. I was like, duh. Like, even though it's quite literal, like objects, utensils, but for me, Taputapu meant that I could explore many areas within that. It actually didn't identify what utensil it might be, or what object or tool or resource it could be. I was like, ooh, Taputapu actually doesn't narrow me into anything, really. And then because the name was quite simple, it was symmetrical, I was like, oh, easy.
Wow,
Done.
That's beautiful. That's a gift. He pai tēnā, Niksta. And what have you learnt most about yourself doing business?
Oh, that's a good one. I really think I've learnt how my strengths have come into play. So a few of my top strengths are being disciplined, adaptable, and positivity. I think those 3 strengths have really helped me get through my business. And I've learnt, actually, in my graphic design services, I've learnt to say no.
Wow.
That's huge, because I think as a small business, we just want to take on all the jobs, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we'll take on you, fire. Yeah, we'll do oh, yeah, what's that kaupapa? Yeah, cool, we'll do that. But actually, this year, we've identified what clients we want to work with now.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and sometimes in our Zui, if I'm first meeting them, I will get a hunch feeling that, yeah, we want to carry on this relationship. Or there's only been a couple of times where I've thought, oh, I don't think this is the right client for us. And I've had to put on some big undies and just be like, this is not the right time for us, or we've had to let some clients go. And I've felt not empowered, but just like, whoa, that was cool.
Wow.
Felt like we may have dodged a bullet.
It's like a new level of leadership, eh?
Yeah, because I'm thinking of our hauora as well. As graphic designers, sometimes we get dragged through the mud sometimes with some clients, and it's not a nice space for us to be in. Wairua, Hinengaro, and I'm really thinking of my other graphic designer too, who she is the one who does most of the work. So for me, I'm engaging with our clients, booking in all our jobs. So I'm also mindful of her hauora as well.
Nice.
And yeah, there are some clients where I think, actually, is this good for our wairua and our hauora? Maybe not. Yeah, and it's okay to let those ones go. And it's okay to say no.
I think that's probably one of the biggest things that comes to this journey is having that strength and courage to say no to certain kaupapa.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean to say you have to be blunt. It doesn't mean to say that you just have to have this sense of like, no, I'm not doing it. You know, there's ways to navigate that space. But as you say, the reason why you say no is there's many reasons.
Yep.
And I love how you sort of brought in the wellness part of it, you know, your own health and well-being.
Yep.
gives you the space to do the things that you want to do with the right intent and with the right motive. Because if you take on too much, the things that you really like to do become an effort. And that's when you sort of understand, like, oh, we need to make those changes.
And we want to enjoy our mahi. As creators, we love what we do, but there are some really stressful moments. And sometimes clients don't understand the stress or pressure that they put on. So it's just being able to communicate that well and making sure that our processes are in line and making sure that the relationship is balanced.
Wow.
So there are some times where the client will be, we're the boss, you're done. And it's like, nah, actually, we're on a relationship where we're trying to help you with your branding. Yeah, so that's cool if we can establish that.
Wow. And what's it been like for you being a wahine Māori navigating this te ao Pākehine?
Oh, exciting. Some people think, oh, are you set back? And I'm like, nah, man, not at all. I've never experienced that at all. It's a great space to be in general for Pākehī Māori. But as a wahine Māori, it's an empowering space to be in. And having other wahine Māori involved in what we're doing is exciting too. I've just never been set back by being wahine or Māori.
And what do you think that comes down to for you?
I think I've always been encouraged growing up to do what I want to do, really, that my whanau, my mum have backed me in every creative outlet that I've tried. So I've never felt like anxious or setback.
Wow, that's amazing.
Encouraged.
And you sort of talk about pressure, Niksta, and what seems to be your space where you can sort of like find solace or a sense of groundedness in those kinds of moments, because sometimes when we feel pressure, stress, we tend to make decisions or we do things that could add to it. But have you figured out a way that's brought you to a sense of groundedness?
That's a good pātai. I think stripping things back. If I'm feeling like, man, this is way too much, then I have to say no and let things go. Definitely kore tinana helps. Going to the gym, exercising, yoga, even going for walks, being in the ngahere. I think I know for me what works to help me come to a place of being tau.
Maurito.
Yeah, maurito and the ngahere is one space for me. And I think too, having tikanga in place like in my day and in our workspace, I'm very grateful for my graphic designer Taylor, who's very maurito as well, as in terms of her energy.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and just mindful of what we play in our studio, or we start the day with karakia. So just understanding what tikanga, what things help me when pressure's on.
Wow, so it's more so doing things over a consistent basis and not waiting until the stress comes in to then fall onto those tikanga practices. It's sort of you're setting yourself up, even when things are good, to know that you can handle those moments because they're inevitable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, because like when my discipline kicks in, it's like, cool, I love routine. So always doing kore tinana every day. Always starting our week off with tikanga, karakia, setting our goals. That for me helps me stay tau.
And probably produce, the mahi that you want to be producing too, because I know your standards for the mahi that you do are at a level that sort of makes you feel like it's mana enhancing, not just for you, but also for the client. And I just want to double back to like what you said, some of the things that you did. I remember we done that hot Bikram yoga one time, and I was like, man, this is hard and it's hot.
That's right. Crack up.
That was some time ago. And another thing that I know you enjoy to do as well is you're really good at like your little treats. You treat yourself as well. You love your little snacks, your little movie nights, all of those kinds of things. And so is that part of your hauora as well?
Absolutely. I'm definitely all about the treats. And in our workspace as well, like I'll take the girls out. Yesterday we went and did VR virtual games and went and had lunch together. I've booked in a masseuse to come over and do a massage on Monday, if it might mean going up to Auckland to have a nice meal out. I'm definitely all about the treats and celebrating our wins along the way, because otherwise it just becomes work,
Yeah.
you know, and you just don't enjoy it. And let's celebrate that. Wow, we just smashed out 30 logos in 30 days. Like, let's go to Wellington. I'm thinking Wellington,
Yeah.
for Haringa. So all
That's
about the
beautiful.
trees. Yeah.
And it enables you just to enjoy the fruits of the mahi that you guys are doing, and it keeps you inspired and it keeps you sort of encouraged to stay on that huarahi.
Yeah.
And so Niksta, to wrap us off with some whakaaro, what would you say to your younger self? What would you say to that younger version of Niksta that is full of beans? You might have been rapping on the stage, you know, but like even before that, what are some hea e tai kupu aki to either your younger self or to perhaps some rangatahi or people who have some whakaaro in their mind? They have this great idea. They have this sort of feeling of ambition to pursue something. What's some kōrero or whakaaro for them?
I think the first thing that comes to mind would be back yourself. 100%. Yeah, with your idea, with the decisions that you want to make in your life. Because sometimes doubt will just creep in. You know, what are you thinking? Like, do you really think you can do that? You know, all those negative messages start coming into play. But if you fully just back yourself and you tell the people that are most important to you, who can support you on that, then you're ways. There's nothing that can stop you. And what have you got to lose at the end of the day, right? Sometimes, again, the ego can block us from our opportunities and from our dreams, really, because the ego could be like, nah, you want to look like a clown. You know, you don't want to look like that fella trying too hard. Shame, you know, all that.
Yeah.
But if we just put that aside and think, nah, this is my dream, this is what I want to do, then do it.
Wow. I love that kōrero, sis. And, you know, the ego, it's one of those things that makes us boastful. You know, it's one of those things that we want to do things to get celebrated, but then it's also the thing that holds us back and keeps us safe. So it's also like understanding it's understanding that both don't serve you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Both don't serve you in that kind of scenario. So coming back to backing yourself through just tapping into what's true for you in this moment. And the more you can be present with that, the more you're going to be able to find the energy and confidence to actually back yourself to take that step.
And I think too, value yourself, value your talents and your gifts. Sometimes naturally we can be giving people, and we give to a lot of spaces, and we give our energy and our talents, you know, to help others and to, I guess, get to the next level. You know, we'll give so much, but at the end of the day, just value what you have to help sustain you. Yeah, sometimes we just give out too much for free.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I know you've been like that ever since the get-to, so really appreciate that final message, and also for the beautiful kōrero that you've been able to share as a taonga for this kaupapa, and also mo te hunga e are mai ana ki tēnei kaupapa Niksta. So thank you so much for coming through, my beautiful friend. Love you heaps. So proud of the mahi that you are doing, but also for the wahine that you are. So very grateful to have this space, and thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, my mate. Love any kaupapa that you do. When you message me, next day you want to be, I'll like, yep, I'm there. Just always keen to support the mahi that you do, e hoa. So keep going. Content like this is needed for our people.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.